Well, I found Larry Goldberg. I don't know whether he's putting around in his garden today. Oh, actually, he mentioned something about changing over his PC. Oh man, Larry.
Always a fun process.
Oh yeah. No,
And,
no, no.
and talking about gardens, I had to pump out my pool today, yesterday and this morning. All of yesterday. We had about 11 inches of rain.
Oh, I heard
Yeah,
everybody, you guys got trenched over there, huh?
yeah, we did.
11 inches. Holy mackerel. So it's gone now, the rain?
Yeah. We have a bright blue sky. The sun's shining. It's a very pretty day. And, everything worked fine. The pool behaved itself. Everything's good.
So did you get your 12.5.3 or 1.3 or whatever the heck it is?
I do have it. Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Had a chance to drive it yet?
No, it's been, it's been very busy around here. Very, very busy.
All right. Well, the conversation right now is heavily about robotaxi.
Yeah.
Heavily, that's what everybody's very curious and wanting to know about. So, our good buddy Gary Black put together.
Yeah.
He said these were the questions that his folks have been, people on X have been asking him, and I thought
Right.
actually pretty good question list.
Well,
So
Gary's a very, he's very methodical, very analytical. I really appreciate him.
yeah, so let's take a look at what Gary had to say. Why, for number one question that people are asking him, why were Tesla second quarter auto gross margins so low? And what was the Cybertruck impact? And he says that the two reasons: cost of buying down the auto loan rates, and number two, the Cybertruck was a drag. And he says he notes that Tesla doesn't use its own balance sheet to buy down loan rates. It works with financing partners to whom it pays the difference in the loan rate. And we've discovered, I think everybody agrees now, it is just taken off of the selling price. So
Right.
it reduces the average selling price. So do you are good with Gary's answer on this one in terms of the reasons, or anything to be added, anything to be thought
Yeah, I
through?
think there were also significant discounts across the line, the product line. Look, the Cybertruck gross profits are hit by two things. The one is the beginning of the production, and a whole lot of new methods and none of that stuff was dialed in. So the trucks took longer to manufacture than they were going to be. The supply chain is not yet fully optimized, and you haven't actually had the benefit of the production capacity, the shipping capacity,
Right.
because so all of those things fed into that. Plus, they were still manufacturing the old 4680 batteries.
Right.
So that had a big impact. So he doesn't mention that, but I think that's a big number. So all in all, the drag of the Cybertruck must have been quite significant. So I agree with him 100% there.
Okay, and AJ thinks he put out his own estimates for quarter three, and he thinks that the margins will continue downward in the third quarter. He thinks that's going to be primarily again because of Cybertruck as a drag. There's obviously a continuation of these price or these discounts based on the interest rate. So do you think we'll go down more, or do you think,
Yeah.
okay, you think it'll be down more
I
again?
think we'll continue down. I do not see this quarter as a rescue quarter. I think it's a continuation of the story.
Okay. All right. Okay. His second most asked question: will Tesla show volume growth for the full year of 2024? He doesn't think so. He says the math seems stacked against an increase. Given first half deliveries of down 6%, volumes have to grow by plus 6% just to break even. With the 25 to 30,000 vehicle not set until early 2025, Many potential Tesla consumers will wait until 2025 to buy. So he's thinking that overall deliveries could just be flat in the second half, giving a negative 6% for the year. And then he says he expects continued growth in 2025, all the new products, et cetera, and he doesn't give a number. Of course, Tesla, some people are thinking maybe 50% growth next year. Your thoughts?
I don't think there'll be 50% growth next year because the new models are going to have to be dialed in terms of production. So even if they become available on January 1, I think we're going to see, an uptick. Now, the one thing he did not take into account is China sales.
Right.
China sales have been very good this first couple of months of the quarter, or certainly the first month of the quarter, and it continues into August. It's not going to offset the problems that we have in Europe with our model mix and our pricing, and it's going to solve the problems in, California is really, I think, a political issue, and we're not yet seeing growth in the Midwest and in the South that we're looking for Cybertruck to help spur. And, Cybertruck itself is not ramping at the speed that we had hoped. Perhaps with the new batteries or the battery production being dialed in, that may change. But right now, I see a very high risk that this year's sales are going to be significantly down on last year's sales in revenue and in gross margin, continued downward trend in gross margin.
Okay, my caveat to that one is I think that there will be, you and I might have talked about this on Monday night, I don't remember, and that is I think that if the robo-taxi future seems close enough, if we're getting pretty darn close to that reality, and the entrepreneurial class decides that it's very, very close, that I believe there will be significant numbers of people trying to buy in at low price in order to get into the fleet, in order to build their fleets, whether that's a fleet of one, like it'll be in my household, or whether that's a fleet of 50 or 100, like it might be in some other situations.
I really don't think that kind of entrepreneurial kick is going to happen this year. I think the entrepreneurial class is going to have to see real revenue being generated, or the prospect of immediate real revenue being generated. And I think we're a little bit further away from that than you seem to, than you're thinking. So we'll see. I mean, you may be right. Time will tell.
The other thing that could impact would be the lower interest rates that are coming, which could impact not only sales, but could also impact Tesla's, the amount they have to pay to buy down those interest rates.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to see that last quarter just in the United States having that much impact on the year. So we really need to see China, margins improve quite dramatically. I mean, China's numbers are fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, I shouldn't say fantastic.
They're looking good.
They're looking better than they were, which were not good. I think a lot in China, and the other thing we have to take into account is the kind of indirect Osborne effect. If we have new models coming,
right,
the old models are going to suffer accordingly. From my perspective, I've definitely written off Q3 and probably Q4. I see Q1 as being a transitional quarter, but I'm very comfortable that, after Q2 next year, we'll see this upward swing. But I think Gary's on target.
Okay. He says his third question is about regulatory credits. They were very high this time at 890 million. much higher than in the past. What do people think? What did Gary think about this? He thinks that management disclosed 459 million of regulatory credits likely to be recognized within the next 12 months. So that would be substantial downward. Since many OEMs approached Tesla to buy reg credits within the quarter, it's safe to assume reg credits will remain elevated. So there could be new ones, of course, that come on stream that Tesla wasn't planning for. And you think?
I think that I have no clue.
Okay.
I mean, regulated credits have been around since dirt.
Yes.
And not only have they been around since dirt, but they've surprised to the upside and downside every quarter since dirt. So, I'm not prepared to venture a guess.
So then we have a category that you're very familiar with, which is when will Tesla recognize the balance of deferred revenue? 940 million in the second quarter. Tesla recognized 281 million of deferred revenue in the first quarter, 201 in the second quarter. Tesla estimated that 940 from FSD sales and from, I'm assuming the rest would be from the energy sales. So the accounting standard, I didn't know, I don't think I knew this. He says the accounting standard for recognition is once FSD is feature complete and not when FSD can be driven unsupervised. I've been saying that, but I don't think I've ever seen it specifically pulled out of accounting standards. So is this entire amount he's talking about here 100% coming from FSD, not from the energy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm almost certain that FSD revenue recognition will pick up significantly in this quarter and again in the fourth quarter. And I think we're going to see full recognition of all revenue in next year, probably in the first quarter, but maybe even in the second quarter.
Okay.
So
all right.
I'm very comfortable with that.
Other than the things that I think everybody is expecting to happen, like even next week or something, the parking, the reverse, the Y turns, etc. What are there things that you think are going to? What do you think is still left to do to get to feature complete?
Summon.
That's also supposed to be like almost immediate, right?
Yeah. So that would bring us to feature complete, I believe.
I see.
I think feature complete is very close. And I think that would lead to full revenue recognition and a very significant uptick in sales.
Yes, as well, which is another reason why I've been saying I think we could see benefits of sales toward the end of the year, especially if we actually got to unsupervised. Even if it wasn't the entrepreneurs.
We're not going to get unsupervised this year. There's no, I don't think there's one chance in 100 that we'll get to unsupervised this year.
Let me throw out something I talked about yesterday with Bradford. What about the idea that there would be a limited unsupervised version available? Couldn't go on some weird country road, in the middle of nowhere with cliffs on either side. Would be still attached to a central, what do you want to call it? A remote, what's a word for it? A dispatcher. A remote driver, but there wouldn't be a remote driver that's on there all the time. Only that would be called into play if there was an emergency or a situation they needed to come in on. And then allowing that under those circumstances. Bradford said, what if we even included that, like it'd be level 4, they'd still have, person would still have to sit in the driver's seat.
None of the above.
None of the above. Okay.
We're not going to see unsupervised. So if the person's in the driver's seat, that's supervised, as far as I'm concerned. We are not going to see unsupervised driving this year. There's just too little time. We need a quarter of proof. We need, the numbers. We need. It's not going to happen this year. I mean, I could be wrong. Everything I say could be wrong, but in my humble opinion,
your humble opinion,
chances of unsupervised driving this year are 0.
Another thought that we had was, would unsupervised roll out in the same way that we've been rolling out each level of FSD. So initially, that would be the employees that would get
Oh,
the
yeah.
device.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to be
Then-
for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that might be able to be tested at some point.
I doubt it.
No, okay. They're not going to do that until they're really confident.
Yeah, and what's the upside? What's the upside of rolling it out? I mean, they may do some limited tests internally and not talk to anybody about it, and
Right.
see the results of it, evaluate that, and so on. Look, they may be doing that right now.
Right.
There are very limited routes that I would drive the car, test the car on unsupervised right now. There are some significant hurdles to overcome. We're not reading signs fully yet. We're not reading some of the road markings fully yet. We definitely, when we come to road closures, we still try and get in through the gaps in the signs. There are many of these things that we have to overcome before we could even try what you call limited unsupervised. Because you feel so good writing the latest version, and because it's so uncannily human-like. I have to say, it's uncanny how human-like it is. And so, you get to be a little bit more confident than perhaps you should be. So I think that there's enough to say grace over that we need to not think about unsupervised this year, even in a limited way.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that they would want to do that in a limited way. Now, I'm sure that they're testing all kinds of possibilities and so on and so forth. And they probably have some sort of barriers that they have to overcome to get to certain. But look, I know everybody's jonesing for this thing to happen tomorrow. I know. It's not going to happen tomorrow. At the very earliest, it could happen towards the end of this first quarter of next year. That would be an incredible win, in my humble opinion. But by the end of next year, we could well be on our way.
All right. So his fifth question was, going forward, is Tesla more likely to buy down loan rates or cut prices to sell vehicles? He says currently Tesla interest rate buy downs are in place all over the world and seem to be working. We have long championed this interest rate buy down over price cuts. While the P&L impact is roughly the same, interest rate buy downs have three main advantages: no impact on residual values, consumers didn't get trained to wait for more price cuts, and greater flexibility to add or remove interest rate buy downs to adjust to production versus order imbalances. While Tesla was slow to adapt this approach, they like the approach. I argue with him about consumers not getting trained. I think consumers get trained to wait for the interest opportunity. I know I do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. I don't agree with him that they shouldn't have dropped prices. I think the price of Tesla cars were artificially too high, and they did that to bring cash in the early years. But I think if, looking back, I probably would have introduced the cars at lower rates, lower prices. And I don't know that we had the benefit of the cash to have taken it on the chin and not have that huge run up in the stock price, and therefore find it very easy to attract cash. So it's very easy to criticize this in hindsight. But if you look at China, they have normalized prices of EVs at a much lower level, which is, I think, absolutely essential. And I think, Gary may be missing the wood for the trees. I mean, the trees for the forest.
Or even the forest for the trees.
Yeah, no, he's missing the forest for the trees. Thank you. I think we have to reach a point and should be at a point where electric cars are significantly less expensive than either ICE vehicles or hybrid vehicles.
Right.
And that's where we're reaching in China.
Right.
And that would bring the volumes up significantly. We could reduce prices if our volumes went up significantly for a host of reasons. One is, greater utility, usability,
Right.
use of the factories, but also it would significantly reduce the cost of the supply chain.
Right.
We could work, we could work out really what the trade-offs are and so on. But I'm not unhappy with a net profit of 7% at Tesla and a gross margin of down to the 15% level. They're pretty good gross margins.
Yeah.
They're kind of in the middle of automakers, not at the top of the automaker, but it's in the middle. But we have to build volume. That's it. We have to build volume.
Okay. He says the number 6 question is, why didn't Tesla show non-GAAP EPS, excluding the $622 million in restructuring costs, in the same way other companies do?
Yeah, he's exactly on target.
And he
Makes
says
no
that
sense.
Tesla historically has not backed out restructuring costs in their calculation. We believe Tesla's stock fell sharply after the second quarter results were announced because of the lower than expected auto gross margins and not the negative 14% share hit taken in the non-GAAP EPS due to the restructuring costs. So why do you think that they do it differently than other folks?
You have to go back to the history of the CFOs in charge and what their what philosophy was, because you have to think that each one kind of inherited the philosophy from the previous one.
Sure.
And you have to go back to Vaibhav, and I don't understand it, because clearly these one-time charges are really one-time charges.
Right.
In Tesla's case, they really are. I will say that the one-time charge seemed excessively high because the savings seemed pitiful compared to the one-time charge. And I think what Elon did was really give people money. I think he gave them more money than he needed to because he felt really bad about it. I mean, I could be wrong.
That's your theory anyway. He didn't want to be sued.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is an interesting one. I like this next one, number 7. What are the current FSD take rates? Last year, Tesla said that 400,000 Tesla owners were using FSD out of a fleet of 2 million cars, and in North America, and that's an approximate cumulative take rate of 20%. On the second quarter call, CFO T, how do you pronounce his name? Taneja? Anyway, said the cumulative FSD take rate rose in second quarter after the free 30-day FSD promotion, and after they reduced the FSD price. Going forward, we forecast the North American FSD take rate at 22%, Europe at 10%, and China at 5%. I guess that would be after they allow them to be used.
No,
so
they select, and
people are still buying it even when they can
select. Yeah.
All right. So 12.5 combined without further FSD price or subscription rate cuts, which we would encourage. We don't expect the FSD take rate to change until Tesla FSD gets to unsupervised level 4.
I am very opposed to reducing the FSD
I agree.
subscription rate. We've discussed this. I'm very strongly opposed to going below $99. I think the FSD take rate is just an academic subject. I think we've talked about this. It's such a temporary expedient. I don't think it has any impact on the long-term value of Tesla. Now, it may have some impact on the short-term price of Tesla,
Right.
and I know that's what a lot of people are interested in. But let me say this. If we get the full stack, highway stack and city stack, to this 3.5 plus level, and we roll it out to the fleet, and we offer it at $99, I think that it's a great value. And then if we roll it out to Europe and to China, I think we'll get huge take rates. I think we'll get in the 40s and 50%. So I'm not bothered about this, this week's take rate issue,
Mhm,
this
mhm,
month's take rate, or even this quarter's take rate.
mhm.
I'm really concerned about the target at the end of the, journey. So here I don't buy what he's selling.
Okay, okay. He said the eighth biggest question was, when will Tesla start offering robo taxis? By the way, Gary never said these were in order. I'm just I'm just pretending. Yeah. When will Tesla start offering robo taxi services? Will it be rolled out broadly? We kind of talked about that a minute ago, but here's what he says. Once Tesla gets to unsupervised FSD, which he defines, I thought this was surprising. He defines it as 99.99 or 10,000 miles per disengagement. He would expect Tesla to apply for robotaxi license in several markets at once. In 2023, Waymo reported 212 disengagements per 7.14 million fully autonomous miles. And this translates to one disengagement per 33,679 fully autonomous miles driven by Waymo or 99.997. So then
I don't believe Waymo's numbers actually include interventions by supporting drivers. I just don't. Maybe they define that properly. I have to investigate it. But I think a disengagement every 10,000 miles, I think, is very fair for a robotaxi.
okay. And then if it was right now they're already to one accident every 7 million, almost 7 million miles.
Over 6 million miles.
Over 6 million miles. That already seems to me to be adequate.
That's supervised.
That is supervised, but it also includes
both autopilot. That's both autopilot and FSD fully supervised.
And it includes accidents that Tesla has nothing, that the car had nothing to do with, just the other car hit.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a different subject to FSD, unsupervised FSD, or supervised versus unsupervised FSD. It's entirely different. What Tesla are showing here is that cars that are equipped with autopilot or FSD have a dramatically lower accident rate than cars that are not equipped with that. It begs the question of how does it compare to other cars with, driver assistance, technology, and how does autopilot compare to FSD? So those are three open questions that Tesla haven't answered yet.
Right. But my question would be, as it applies to the decision to go unsupervised, one accident, assuming that it would be the same, it was unsupervised, maybe it would go up, but it might also go down because maybe some of the interventions were inappropriate or unnecessary. So
I don't think that the rate of intervention has anything to do with the accident rate. I honestly don't.
Okay, well, people would intervene when they think that there is a chance of a safety problem.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean there was a safety problem, or that doesn't mean that that it doesn't bear anything in reference to unsupervised FSD. In other words, if the intervention rate is sufficiently low to go with unsupervised FSD, that profile is going to have a completely different safety envelope to supervised FSD for negative and positive reasons. And so I don't think it bears any semblance of comparison.
But we have to have something. So you're thinking that the decision will be based on, because Elon has said as much. So I'm not arguing with you necessarily, but you think the decision to go to unsupervised is all about interventions and nothing to do with accidents per million miles or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Interesting. All right. Number 9, will Tesla accept liability for injury and damages once it offers robotaxi? And all three people, Gary and you and I, also said, duh.
Yeah.
They won't have a choice.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was comparing insurance rates just a few minutes ago. I had no clue what I'm paying for insurance. I don't really look at my household accounts very closely. But we just had a conversation on X
Right.
via open exchange about insurance rates.
Right.
I discover my insurance rates for my 3 Teslas are about $100 a month.
Each.
Yeah, each
Each.
$100 a
Okay.
month. Yeah, each $100 a month.
Right.
And somebody was saying somebody wanted to charge them $1,000. Allstate, which is my insurer, wanted to charge them $1,000 a month just for the Cybertruck.
Well, maybe they were 16 and had 17 accidents.
I mean, so I mean, these are very good rates from Allstate as opposed to, any other. So,
Right.
and I think I was paying more for, I think my previous car was a BMW, and so it looks to me like Allstate in any case. And by the way, his insurance, the guy who they wanted $1,000 a month, well, his insurance company was Allstate, but his state was California.
But I'm in California and ours is about the same, Larry. And but now we have 3 homes insured on that same policy. And we've been with State Farm in our case for, I don't know, I think I've been with State Farm for 40 years or something. So, there's a lot of history there. So there's a lot of discounts that are playing into that number. Plus I'm older than dirt like you. So, yeah. So all those play in, but $1,000 a month, that would be, that, that just reminds me of what I used to pay when I was, 22 and,
I understand.
but yes, they will have to pay. I mean, they will have to insure the cars and yes.
Yeah.
Number 10, will Tesla retrofit HW3 vehicles to make them as good as HW4 vehicles? And
I think the software is going to solve that problem. I don't think it's a hardware problem. I think the software will be fine. And this whole HW3 is, one guy started it and he's very voluble and very, anyway, I don't think it's an issue.
Yeah. And I keep thinking back and forth about the other aspect of it as a manufacturer, whether offering a suite or offering a method, charging people $1,000 or $2,000 to upgrade. But I think the problem is that the cost of doing it would really be $5,000.
I don't think it'll be anything close to $5,000. And I think that it will be reasonable. Tesla have offered hardware upgrades before to the technology. And, the hardware for computer doesn't cost $5,000. Or doesn't even cost $3,000 for that matter. I think Tesla probably is paying in the range of $1,000 for it. The real issue is, can it be engineered? Because the power requirements and some of the control requirements, communication requirements, all very different. So there may have to be some engineering and they'll have to analyze that, but I don't think it's necessary. I think we're so far away from, hardware limitations that I don't think it'll be a problem.
Okay. Question number 11. If Tesla doesn't add LiDAR to its hardware stack, how will Tesla Robotaxi drive in inclement weather such as rain?
Inclement weather is terrible for LiDAR. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? LiDAR doesn't work in the bloody rain. I mean, what is he thinking? LiDAR is not the solution in rain.
No. And the other side of the coin is that probably the current 8-camera system will drive better than a human in rain and better than human in fog.
Well, let me just say that we drive fine in the rain with our eyes.
Right.
I don't think the camera has got a problem other than the surface of the glass. And apparently Tesla believe they have solutions to that. But LiDAR is not the solution in rain. I will tell you that.
Yeah, so I would be looking at do you know what happens now? I guess, Larry, I don't drive it enough, and I certainly am in California. We don't know in Southern California what inclement weather is.
Yeah.
So so
Well, one of the biggest storms I've ever been in my life, from a rain perspective, was in LA. So
well,
okay.
yes, in the fall for a minute we do have some rain. Anyway, my point was going to be, does it currently have a point at which it just says, nope, I'm not going?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's what Waymo does as well.
Okay. All right. Just can't go. I mean, I've been in fog that was so bad that I couldn't see the street, and at a certain point you just have to pull over and not go. Yeah. 12. What should investors expect on October 10th? He says that we expect Tesla to unveil a robotaxi cybercab with at least 99% target efficacy. Tesla will also likely talk about the rollout stages, the robotaxi app, and the infrastructure needed, HW4, etc. We've talked about this probably ad infinitum, Larry, but any updates on your thinking about 1010?
Yeah, I think 1010 is going to show the robotaxi and the plan and Elon's very relaxed about the business plan for robotaxi. He kind of just sloughs it off. And so it's, I don't think they're going to give us letter and book on how they're going to roll that out, just from what I've seen. But I fully expect to see an indication of the new vehicles that are coming. Other than the robotaxi. I fully expect to see the, one more thing being the the Model 2 or whatever, even if it's in, I don't think it'll be in concert. I think they'll roll it out. People talk about Osborning, but I don't see why a $25,000 vehicle Osborne's a $35,000 mark. They're two different models.
Yeah. And usually the person that can afford the $35,000 to $40,000 vehicle has some kind of a sense of that they need to be in that level of car in order for the friends not to look down.
The problem with our thesis is that people are currently extending themselves to buy the $35,000 or $30,000 vehicle because they can't get the $20,000 or the $25,000 vehicle.
Right.
And so that will hit sales. But, I honestly think that the rollout of the $20,000, $25,000 vehicle is so important, so critical, that I would love to see it on 1010.
Yeah. Okay. And take orders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously.
Right. Let's see. Why should Tesla advertise? Isn't word of mouth enough? He says during the second quarter conference call, 66% of Tesla's second quarter sales were to people who had never owned a Tesla before. That is the strongest argument for Tesla at running advertising targeted non-EV owners. Okay, Larry, what's your...
That's like, why is he trying to fight last year's lost battle? Lost the battle. You lost the battle. Stop it already. And did he end up with share buyback?
No, not at all. I continue to believe that the Midwest could use some advertising, some very pointed, very narrow focused advertising. But I also have really begin to think about the Midwest in more depth. And I don't think it's just about the politics. I think the other big thing about the Midwest is the price they pay for gas. We pay $4, $5, $6 here in California. So that what do you think? People in California, it doesn't have to be that they're liberal and green. It's that we don't want to pay $4, $5, and $6 for gasoline. And in the Midwest, you're paying $2.50, $3, $3.50. It's a lot less.
Well, the gas is less, distances are longer, charging stations are sparser, and so and you have this kind of antipathy towards the climate
Issue.
issues. So it doesn't kind of gel with it. But look, when EVs are cheaper than gas cars, and EV maintenance is like a fifth of gas cars, and electricity is cheaper
Right.
than gas, then it's a compelling story.
Yeah.
And the performance of the car is better. So
Much better. And safety.
And safety. So those are the things. Now, should it be advertised? Of course it should be. What kind of advertising? We've got a guy who doesn't like advertising. So what are we going to do? It is what it is. He is who he is. That's it.
14, what is happening with Elon Musk's 2018 compensation plan? Who knows, right? It's in the hands of McCormick.
Well, we know that she's very, very negative. We know that they're trying to teach a lesson to a billionaire, the richest man in the world. They're trying to, this is a political thing. Judges shouldn't be political. I think that the Delaware polity is very opposed to this. Those that are, concerned with Delaware's
income,
golden goose.
Yes.
And I think that if it's not reversed on appeal, which it may end up having to be, then it'll just be a bun fight between Texas and Delaware. I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to get what he deserves. At the end of the day, the shareholders are going to support him. Delaware is not doing itself any favors, and this lady is not doing Delaware any favors. So I think it's now, just a grind. We have to just grind to the end.
So the last question is an interesting one that to me has always been obvious, but I realize that to the average investor, maybe not. He says the last question is this Tesla valued like an auto company or a tech company? I've been saying, I don't know, probably since I wrote the book, that Tesla's valuation when it hit 410 or even when it was 300 or 350, that valuation included some kind of optionality on robotaxi. There's no way in the world you get to those numbers based on an auto company, even an electric auto company, even with 50% per year growth rates. You could take all of that and give it the best possible look you could. You still had to add in the expectation of the robotaxi, FSD, et cetera, in order to get to those numbers.
Yeah, and the other thing is now we've got energy in the mix, and now we've got AI, not AI, but the bot Optimus in the mix. So clearly, we are the most unique technology company and the most unique manufacturing company because we combine both manufacturing and technology. And I would say that that's the great skill set. When you look at what SpaceX did with that rocket motor, which is extraordinary, extraordinary and extreme, you get a sense of the power of this combination of technology and manufacturing skill and product management. So that's what we are. And to not understand that and to keep questioning it and keep coming back to the same, rudimentary, Wall Street analysis is crazy. We are seeing something which this country hasn't seen since Thomas Alva Edison. And those that recognize it, they know.
Yeah.
Those that don't, he's a billionaire. His politics are not my politics. He's, he's brash. And, the cars, I don't like the cars. And, EVs are not a great idea. And, I mean, we can find all these criticisms, so on, but at the end of the day, there is nobody on earth that would have been able to build a rocket motor that he's built I mean, his biggest competitor, this is a literal truth. His biggest competitor looked at the picture and said, "Oh, you've left out all these things that should be on the rocket motor. It's one thing to take a picture of a rocket motor and compare it to another rocket motor, but you should take it with all those things on it." And then they show him a picture of it running without all those things on it. And, it's like even his biggest competitor can't look at it and can't get it. They can't imagine what he's already done in terms of building it, and it fires perfectly the first time. Now, and Tory Bruno is now his biggest competitor is now talking about how much money he wasted doing these flying back the entire booster. Tory's just going to fly back the motors, and he explains why this is so much better. But it's been 5 years of billions of dollars of revenue that Elon's earned in the interim period of time, and launched this gigantic galaxy of 5,000 satellites. So people just don't get it, Randy.
No.
They just don't get it, and it's extraordinary. And you know what? When Thomas Alva Edison was alive, they didn't get it.
Get it? Yeah.
Here ends the rant.
Oh no, I'll add to your rant. If people have any question left at all, go to the 8-hour video with Lex Friedman.
Neuralink. I mean, what an amazing video.
Oh my!
I mean, it was amazing. I want to do a summary of each of those, and then try and post just this short summary of each of them, because it was the most extraordinary experience sitting through those 8 hours.
Well, Larry, when you finish those short summaries, let's do a video on it, because I think so few people are going to watch that 8 hours. But and I didn't understand. There was time. I'm probably you too. There was a few periods of time in there, open loop and closed loop and stuff, that I didn't have a clue what they were talking about.
Yeah, well, I got most of it. I really did get most of it.
Good,
I think it can be made pretty straightforward.
Good.
Look, those 5, was it 5 individuals that he interviewed? That Lex,
counting the guy who has the chip. Yeah, I think it was 5. Yeah.
Yeah, including Elon. Each one of those people were extraordinary. Their dedication, their commitment, and what they've achieved.
It's amazing. Yeah.
And not only that, but the vision of this machine being able to support a doctor in every city to be able to do this on a regular basis.
Yeah.
It's one thing to think about this insert into the brain. It's another thing to think about the robot to put it, but it's a whole nother thing to think about this as, an industrial solution that can be rolled out across the world.
And everybody in the program kept calling them products. As opposed to devices, they called them products.
Because it is a whole product. It's not just the device itself. It was an amazing. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, okay. Listen, Larry, if you got 5 extra minutes, no, I don't think we would be doing our listening audience justice if we didn't talk about what happened this week and what it might portend for next week. The bonds did recover. Recover. Yeah, the bonds went down again today. Yeah, so that means they recovered. So the bonds did recover. I was shocked. The biggest shock of the week to me was that the bonds yields went up yesterday, but they reversed today. What do you think? What did you think about the week, Larry?
I think the week was very understandable because people were having a hard time adjusting to the new reality, and some people were continue to fool themselves. Other people were adjusting to the reality, and the mood swung dramatically on, in each direction on a day. I didn't track the daily, read up and down and so on and so forth. But I thought that we returned to almost normal, nearly normal, far quicker than I thought we would. I thought we'd be bouncing up and down a lot more, and maybe we will next week.
Well, there was absolutely zero news today and almost no news yesterday. So it became easier, I think, for the market to settle down for a couple of days. I didn't look at the VIX today, so I don't know how it finished, but it was in the 20s, all week and even higher. Next week, there is massive amounts of news, massive amounts of reporting, CPI, PPI.
NVIDIA, yeah, but
NVIDIA, we got the small business owners.
Yeah.
They're on Tuesday. I mean, there's more. That's only the tip of the iceberg. So we may really start to get a sense next week of whether the recession is in or not. Somebody commented to me today on X, Larry, saying, recessions are not official until 6 months after they're over.
That's right.
And that's fine. But I don't think that stops us from wanting to speculate about the current state of the economy. When I've listed I put an X post up yesterday, Larry, 16 different things I'm seeing that are all pointing to recession. And I could only find 4 that were pointed the other way. And I didn't get anybody that was coming back at me on X saying, oh, well, here's 4 more or 8 more. I just can't. I just don't see how we're not going to have a rough third and fourth quarter.
Right. I agree with that. I agree. Anyway.
Okay. Well, all right. Then let's wrap it up. Larry, as always, it's a thrill to have you on, of course. Folks today may not have seen the video. I think it's an odd video, guys. It's not my normal thing. I had Terry Feelehy on earlier today. Terry Keeley on earlier today. He's beyond our normal kind of person to have on any of these shows. He has worked for the papacy, had breakfast with the Pope, was living in the same facility as the Pope for a long time. He's worked for BlackRock for 8 years, dealing with internet, with the largest banks and banks, the government banks, around the world in BlackRock. Has an unbelievable history. And he was talking about 2 things that are very important to all of us in the community, which is the ESG, which he basically single-handedly got BlackRock to stop paying attention to. And then the opportunity to have a more an economy that is based more on replacement and circular and all the things that Elon is trying to do with his mission statement. So I'm hoping people will watch it. It was a long one. It's an hour long, but I think there's a ton of good stuff in there.
I will check it out
right there.
Okay.
All right.
I'll check it out.
All right. So it's been great as always talking
Thanks.
of you.